Kirby, a couple days into practice, just how's practice been this week, getting ready for Saturday?
Yeah, I thought it was really good Monday, and I thought it was really good today. So I've been very pleased. We probably got a little blessed by the weather today. It was not as hot as I was expecting it to be. It was overcast, but we were able to go outside the whole time. Pretty good humidity. Guys worked hard out there and had good spirits and good tempo. I think we challenged them to have a better week of practice. So far we've done that, but we've only done 2 of the 4.
Coach, earlier in the week you mentioned how teams are getting rid of the ball quicker, throwing the ball, and I think you said under 2.1 seconds was the average against you guys. Has that changed anything in terms of how you stack your roster, how you go about recruiting, particularly on that defensive line? Are you looking for maybe more weight to affect passing lanes or anything? Has anything changed at all?
No, because to win football games, you can't throw the ball in 2.1 seconds all the time. That's your early downs. As you get into third down and more sophisticated teams, they're going to drop back and pass on you, and you got to affect the quarterback. It's one of the number one things you got to do on defense. So you have to have people that can rush the passer, especially when you get into the upper echelon and you start playing your SEC opponents. It's not like that. It's usually that way in a team that might feel like they're outmanned on the defensive front, on the offensive lines, outmanned by a defensive front. So they get rid of it quicker. They want to protect their quarterback, but we don't see that the further up we go. So it doesn't really affect. We have to have guys that can block, tackle, run, catch, hit, intercept, and that doesn't change how we recruit.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned you saw some growing up moments from guys like C.J. Smith and McConkey on Saturday. I was wondering if you saw any of those moments from the corners that played, like A.J. Harris, Dalen, Julian Humphrey, guys that got it. Like, how did you evaluate their growing up in that first game, getting a lot of reps?
Well, they probably grow up more in practice because they get challenged a lot more in practice, but we don't put any greater value on the game reps they took the other day than we do the practice reps they took today, because they get to go against really high quality people. But I thought they held the point, played a little more physical out there than I expected in regards to AJ, Julian, and Nyland. Dalen's played quite a bit because last year he got to play a lot in some of the games, and then Kamari's played a good bit, but nothing really stood out. I thought those guys played with good confidence.
Yeah, you've been dealing with some injuries in your inside linebacker room. How are Schmeil and Raylan Wilson progressing as they try and come back?
Yeah, Raylan is back in a black shirt. He's practiced the last 2 days. It's so great to have him out there. I don't think he's 100%, but he's coming off a hyperextended knee, so he's wearing a little bit of a brace, and there's a little bit of a lumbar there. But he's really a bright kid. It's like he didn't miss a lot mentally. He was able to stay in tune with what's going on while he was not practicing, which is really hard for a freshman to do. Smile has been good. Like I said, I didn't know how much he played the other day, but in our mind, he was playing. He was playing in the sub situations. He's played a few more snaps this week, kind of building him up, trying to ramp him up slowly to a full games kind of quota of snaps. So I don't know how much that'll be this week, but he's practiced well.
Kirby, you guys had some key backups the last couple of years on the offensive line that you rotated in, during the thick of the game. Are you guys close to, having that kind of guy or two that might come in? I think it was maybe 24-0 before some of the other guys might come in.
Yeah, I don't know the exact score. Our plan was Dylan Fairchild was going to play some, and I thought he did, but maybe he did before then. You know better than I do, because I don't check the score to see when they go in. And then Micah will play a little bit. He's got to play with more consistency. He has the ability, but there's days that he doesn't do his assignment, and it worries you, because one of those things could be a tackle for a loss and cost you a drive, a hit on a quarterback. So he's got to do that at a more consistent level of being a play. And then Jared Wilson's the other guy. So those 3 guys have played a lot. Blasky has done well, and trust Blasky to go out there and play.
Coach, how'd you feel like Xavier Sawyer played in his first real start and extended playing time?
Did some good things. He had a couple mental errors. I think the anxiety of playing in that game and starting, he's played in games, but he's played more as a sub rusher. So to play stack inside backer and sub rusher, which we ask our guys to do, was a daunting task for him for a first time and first game, but he played hard. He missed a couple run keys, and he missed a couple walkaways, we call them, where you have to walk out of the box. But pleased with Sawyer's development, and he's been very coachable.
Coach, how do you think it went this week, working with the new clock rules for the first time?
Really wasn't a big change or a big deal of any kind. I mean, we anticipated those things being different. I think that's going to be a lot more significant the tighter games are. With ours not being as tight in the second half, it probably didn't matter. It didn't show up. Before the half, we kind of talked and communicated about the drive there, where I think it was over 2 minutes, so we knew it was going to run until it got below 2 minutes. Unfortunately, we didn't have but one timeout to play with, so it didn't matter. In a situation where we had 3 timeouts, we might have chosen or elected to use those, but it was not significant in terms of anything. I think across the country there's a lot of scuttlebutt about the number of snaps, but I don't think we can significantly say anything until we get more data to kind of get a good barometer of that.
We spoke to Mike Kelly yesterday. What sort of progress have you seen from him this year, especially after he had to miss a little bit of time?
Maturity. He's just carries himself well. He's a leader. He's very mature. Practices hard, plays hard. He's what you want a football player to be. He's tough, physical, does what you ask, and he really handles coaching well. For a guy as talented as he is, he doesn't think he has all the answers, and very pleased with where he is, and need to find a way to keep him healthy.
Saw Jordan Hall got some early playing time. Not to put him in this category, but do you all feel like you need a difference maker on the interior D line, the way Jalen was, the way Jordan was, Devontae was, or do you not necessarily need that to be the defense you want to be?
Need or want. I mean, you always want really disruptive, violent, quick, twitchy players. Everybody wants that, and you need both. You need someone that can do that. You need somebody that can anchor and handle double teams and strike blocks. You have guys that can be disruptive. I just don't know if they can do it and consistently do it and stop the run as well without guessing sometimes. So our defensive linemen are perfectly capable. There's not that kind of guy. And even Jordan and Devontae were here now. They were not that kind of guy either. They were big physical guys. Devontae was twitchy and quick, but he was not what Jordan was. And Jordan was a very unique player in terms of stopping up 2 gaps and not necessarily being a elite pass rusher. But very comfortable with the guys we've got, and very comfortable with what Jordan's doing, being able to help us. We want to keep bringing those guys along so that we have more of those guys than anybody in the country.
Checking on a couple of offensive guys, you said Dejan, you felt like he was good to play. What does he look like in practice this week? And Ladd, day to day, what's his participation been like?
Dejan's looked good. He's practiced and done well. Not in the black jersey. He's still got a knee brace. Ladd has not practiced with us. He's done routes on air. He's run routes. He's run. He's cut, but he has not taken hits and done like reps, like whatever you call it, practice reps. He's done reps on air.
Coach, you coached a lot of good safeties. Who does Malachi Starks most remind you of?
Well, I've been around some thumpers, and I think of all the guys, the Mark Barons and the Clinton Dix and Dom Sanders here, and Lewis, Chris and Richard. He's really different than all those guys. He's probably the one guy that if you had to, that could go out there and play corner if he had to. I mean, he's got a coverage skill set and speed skill set that most safeties don't have. He's a good tackler. Maybe not as physical as those guys in terms of knockback tackles, but he's a good tackler. And he's got good range, very intelligent.
Coach, after the game, you said that you voiced concern about creating turnovers, but a big emphasis last year was limiting explosive plays. What makes Georgia so good at limiting explosive plays?
Well, I think it's hard to run the ball against us. Historically, if you just say over the history of 7-8 years, we've been really high in run defense, and when you do that, you force people to throw the ball, and we say you do more with less. So you can cover more with less in the box and occupy gaps if you're a defensive lineman or have the ability to strike and play the run. So we have been good at that. We have to continue to be good at that, but that sometimes can limit explosive plays because you don't run the risk of bringing 5 and 6 guys that often.
I might have missed it if you touched on it, but Javon Bullard's, first game back there at safety, what was your observation of his work?
Well, I wouldn't say that you get a true, it's hard to get an evaluation because he didn't get tested. The longer they hold the ball, the further receivers can run, the more the ball goes down the field. I don't think there's a lot of downfield throws. What he did well was tackle. He was in the right place. He really did a nice job in the perimeter RPO game, which everybody runs now. It's millennial Oklahoma, I call it, out there on the perimeter. He's really good at that. But he didn't get tested on hard play action, eye transfer, shots in the middle of the field, and that's the area that we work with him every day on so he can be really good at it. 'Cause it's the most different thing about playing safety is the deep part of the field. And he didn't get a lot of chances.
Coach, how Jackson makes do with his injury?
He's running. He's out there running, and he was over there with Ladd a lot of times running and cutting. I would think that Ladd's ahead of him if I had to say based on what I see, but he's out of the boot and off the treadmill. He's out there on the real grass running.
What more do you know about your team at this point this year, coming off that UT Martin game, compared to some past years where you've opened up against a more marquee opponent like a Clemson and an Oregon?
I don't think you do. I mean, I really don't. I don't know what we learned last year in that Oregon game where almost everything went our way offensively, and then this year everything almost went our way defensively. Obviously, two very different opponents. I'm not comparing the two opponents, but I'm comparing what I know about our team. I don't, because in each of those years there were games immediately after that we had question marks, and I think you're always going to have question marks. I mean, nobody says you got to be the best team after week one.
Kirby, I was going to ask you about Ball State's tight ends, but since you mentioned Ladd, I was going to ask as well about, is a back injury more tricky than like a knee or ankle in terms of whether a guy's going to be available or not?
Yeah, it's tricky to me because I don't understand it. It's one of those that I listen to Ron each day talk about it, and I can't even explain to you exactly what it is. It's a really big word, but it's frustrating for him because he doesn't control. Like he runs and does great, everything's fine, and then one sudden movement can set him back, and he has pain, and then he's back down. So he's battling his tail off. He rehabs 3-4 times a day, and he's like, I can go, coach, I can go. Let me go out there and practice. And we're not going to do that until we're certain. So yeah, in some ways, it's probably more frustrating.
What about the tight ends for Ball State?
They're big, really good, talented tight ends. The one kid didn't play last week, and the other kid did play and played really well. So they got good tight ends.
Coach, you mentioned modern day Oklahoma. I feel like every time we're out of practice, we see y'all doing some type of 2-over-2 drill or 3-over-3 drill. What's the key to being a really, really good tackling team out in space like you guys seem to be every year?
Understand leveraging blockers. Where's my help? We don't let guys just do what they want to do. Like there's a play in the scrimmage. I mean, in the game the other day that Bullard trusted Taki. He said Taki's going to be there. I'm going to fit here, and we're building a wall. I think Trey Scott and our defensive staff do a great job of teaching the defensive backs that on the perimeter throw game, run game, it's really just defensive line play. I strike my blocker, I hat in hands, I check my gap, I stay in my gap, I trust that my buddy's going to be in the other gap, and then if I have to shed and get off and go finish, I'll do that as well. But we practice that a lot because we see it, and so our offense does that, we do that, we do a lot of perimeter drill work.
Kirby, how big was getting a guy like Trammell back for another year, having that experience in the defensive line?
Yeah, it's been huge for us because look at the situation we've been in. That's a position that we're probably the thinnest on our entire team, more so than running back and tight end is the defensive, what I call the big end. We've got defensive tackles, but we have a deficiency there. And with Ty has been injured back and forth. Michael has been out almost all camp. I mean, where we would be without Trammell, we would be forced to play undersized outside backers at that position. And Trammell's given us great leadership and great consistency.
Yeah, was there maybe a moment during fall camp or this offseason when you felt like the lights sort of came on for CJ Smith that would allow him to do what he went out and did for you guys, not just on Saturday, but throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, there is, but I can't define that moment. I mean, there were several times I was like, whoa. Number one, he's been, what do you call it? He's been present. He has not been injured. He has had a very injured, I mean, it's almost mirrors Arian's early years where he had this. Well, all of a sudden he was there for 10, 12 consecutive practices and he started showing up. And I'm like, dude, that guy's blocking good. Man, that guy's running good routes. He's catching the ball with his hands. He looks good. And then boom, he had a little bout with a hamstring, and then he had something else. And then he battled back, he got through that, and I've really just been impressed with his physicality, blocking, and his speed. I mean, we knew that we were getting somebody that could really run if we could get the rest of the traits to show up. And he's still a work in progress as a receiver, but man, he works hard at it and has done a nice job. He's starting to understand things. I think BMAC and Bobo have done a great job developing him.
Got time for 2 more questions?
It's kind of on that, in that vein, having Marcus back out there to split in, he always talks about how much pride he takes in blocking, and is that a difference maker, having a veteran guy like that, who can do all the things and do them correctly every time?
Yeah, it really helps. I think Carson's confidence was one of the big things with having Marcus around, is like, oh, all right, Marcus knows every fastball play. Marcus knows exactly what to do when he checks. Marcus knows the route tree. Marcus gives you comfort as a quarterback that he's going to do it right. Not just the physicality and blocking, because he's more than a blocker. He goes up and makes plays on the ball. He had huge catches last year over the middle, the end zone catch against Tennessee. I mean, he's just very reliable. And I think having him back gives all those guys a little more swagger and confidence at receiver, because he's out there. And it takes a little bit of a load off the other guys in terms of volume.
Coach, when we talked to Michael yesterday, he mentioned how you guys are a team-oriented pass rushing unit. Is that something you guys ever have to fight against on the recruiting trail? Is it something other teams use as a tactic, like, hey, their guys don't get stats?
Well, we usually fix that when we show them how many we have drafted, and that is silenced. Because we put Trevon Sachs up there and say he went number 1 overall. We put Devontae's up there and say he went in the first round. We put Quay's up there. We put Nolan's up there. We put Jordan Davis's, and then they don't say anything. See.